Hello, welcome back to Diagonal Move. It's week 3 of the Tour de France 2022, the Flamme Rouge Grand Tour variant of that, with the Tour de France stages designed by BTG user Beiran Owlpants. It's been an epic race so far, lots of actions in the mountains last week and a few shocks on the more transitional stages on both occasions during those 2 weeks. This is stage 15 and it's another transitional stage. It's a pretty long one, over 200 kilometers, but it is really designed mostly to move the riders from one part of France to another in time for the Pyrenees in a few days. Tomorrow will be a rest day, so it's a good chance really just to make the most of a relatively flat, relatively easy-going stage, relatively in quotes. But we have had experience of shocking events on this tour with these transitional stages. Both occasions, the GC at the time, whether that was the blue team or Team Diagonal Move, the GC dropped back massively on these stages. So yeah, we'll wait and see what happens here today. Needless to say, if you do like this video and you've enjoyed the other ones, do click like, subscribe, all that kind of thing, and I'll join you in just a moment for the rest of the action. Proving once again that the transitional stages on this year's tour are just as important as the mountain stages, Team Diagonal Move have broken away and now have a significant gap on the remainder of the team, and it looks like that gap is growing. The green team are still back on the pavé here, and the two rouleurs look like they are about to have some distance between them. Up front is our former GC contender T, who is pushing in really hard along these hills, racking up the exhaustion cars like there's no tomorrow. This attack from Team Diagonal Move has blown apart the field now even more, and there is just one final incline to cross before what could well be plain sailing, hopefully, relatively, for T, the Diagonal Move sprinter. The rouleur J is coming along behind as well, and there is some distance between the main peloton and even the straggler, which is today the Ferret. So it looks like we have another significant day, but let's reveal those cars and see how we go. A 4 and a 6 for Diagonal Move. That's going to get J to the mountain and T over the mountain. A 7 for the green team. They've put some effort to try and catch up now. A 3 and a 6. They may not come within touching distance there, the blue team. Okay, let's get the riders moving. Just 4 for the sprinter. Can only go 5, the rouleur. 6 for the blue rouleur, and just 3 for the blue sprinter. 7 though for the green team. Okay, there is still huge gaps in the road. The Diagonal Move sprinter is still riding hard towards the finish line, and the onus now really is on the rest of the field to catch him. Let's see what they've played. A 6 for the green team. That's going to get them to the base of the mountain, or hill really. A 5 for the blue sprinter, again base of the mountain if lucky, and a 5 for the blue rouleur. It looks like this breakaway may well stay away. Pink rouleur J looks like is now falling behind his teammate. The field has come back together behind Team Diagonal Move. T is now not far from the finish line, whereas J is cresting the hill in second position. That's another exhaustion card each though. Meanwhile, the peloton is back together, chasing every step of the way. Exhaustion has now struck, and T, the Diagonal Move sprinter, is starting to fade fast on the downhill, so you're going to get a little bit further than we'd do normally with a handle cars like this, but still unlikely to finish. Meanwhile, the field are chasing hard behind. Let's see what we have. Looks like J, the rouleur, still has some legs in him. It's a 6 for green, 4 for the blue sprinter, and a 6 for the blue rouleur. It looks like, despite the exhaustion, the breakaway may stay clear. so close but so far. And again, everyone is limited to what they can ride on those mountain spaces, meaning that the rouleur J for Diagonal Move has been caught. The sprinter is somewhat behind now for the blue team, as he has been this entire tour. Another exhaustion card for the Diagonal Move sprinter sees the rider cross the line, but has potentially been caught at the final moments. Let's see how this works. We have a 5 for the rouleur due to the descent. Another 5 here. And a 2 though for the green sprinter, but we have a 9 for the green rouleur, who has so close to finishing there. Stage 15 has been won by T, the sprinter for Team Diagonal Move. Got in the breakaway in the very early stage of the race, and despite all the odds, managed to stay away and held on right until the very end. Everyone else is now fighting for the places, and we will have some change, I think, on the classifications, but certainly not a change in yellow jersey, I would think, at this point. For all the fireworks on stage 15 and that epic breakaway and fantastic win by Team Diagonal Move, if I do say so myself, the overall impact on the general classification and the race as a whole was actually very small indeed. Podium positions are still taken up primarily by the green team, with the rouleur from Diagonal Move in third. Blue are fading fast now, and it does look like this is going to be a race between the sprinter and the rouleur for the green team to see who is the best rider of all time. In the points competition though, we do have another slight break in the rankings there, thanks to that stage win from Diagonal Move. But again, all it needs is a little bit of consistency from one of the other teams, and that could change too. It's a second rest day on the Shears Tour de France. The last rest day, I used it as an opportunity to reflect on how the game was going and make a couple of tweaks to the exhaustion rules just to suit my solo way of playing. And I think that's worked reasonably well. It certainly seems to have balanced out a little bit, although as you can see, Diagonal Move here are still racking up by far the most exhaustion. Fortunately, on a rest day, all of these will be cleared away and we will basically start afresh. Now, I'm not going to make any more changes to those rules because I think with only a few stages left and the race largely over now, it's really not much point. But what I will do is talk for a moment about how well I think the game is marrying or mirroring the race in real life. It's the third week of the tour, and normally by now you've got a couple of riders vying for the first position, a few vying for third and fourth, and then the rest some distance behind. And when you have a quick look at this, that is really what we have here. We have the first and second, which here are the green team, and then third really could be contended between any of these riders. And it's really quite impressive the way that has happened over the course of 15 stages now, and we really do have a third week position in the GC, very similar to what you would have in the actual Tour de France. So I find that really quite impressive. For me now, the race is more, will the Ferret or the Headhunter become the greatest tour rider of all time, and just how well will I manage to hold on to third? We will go from there, I think. But moving now into stage 16, which slowly brings the race towards the Pyrenees and the final high mountains of the Tour. Stage 16 undulates its way from Carcassonne to Foix, takes in a couple of first category climbs over the course of 178 kilometres, and we'll see our riders back in action after yesterday's rest day. Winding up now towards the Pyrenees, things will get tougher from here. Rejoining the race at the summit of the final categorised climb of the day, and Team Diagonal Move are again on the attack. They broke away almost from the very first kilometre and have held off the peloton all the way across undulating terrain and up another categorised climb. Now we're at the top of the final climb of the day. It's downhill all the way into Foix. However, the question is, have the peloton been left behind because they're struggling to keep up with this phenomenal pace that Diagonal Move are setting, or are the peloton happy to give Diagonal Move enough rope to hang themselves with as we move towards the finish line today? Moment of truth then. Let's reveal the cards and see whether the peloton are happy to keep the Diagonal Move team at arm's length, let them rack up all the exhaustion, or are they genuinely being dropped all this way? First up, for Team Diagonal Move, we have the rouleur using the speed of the descent to remove some of that exhaustion. Only a 4 for the sprinter from the same team. The green team now are almost at the top of the hill themselves, and the blue team are close behind. Let's see what happens out on the road. And it looks like the peloton are keeping Team Diagonal Move at arm's length, happy in the knowledge that these exhaustion cards that are racking up now are really going to come back in a few moments' time to cause problems as we approach the finish line. It looks like it could well have been a case of give them enough rope, because Team Diagonal Move, both members of the team, are struggling to maintain their momentum here on the road. Meanwhile, of course, the peloton is coming ever closer behind. We have just 2 spaces for the rouleur, 5 for the sprinter, bringing them together for the first time in quite a while actually. Green team move 5, as do the blue sprinter. And yeah, it looks like it was a case of leave them enough rope, because the peloton has now completely rejoined that breakaway, and Team Diagonal Move are about to be swallowed up by the race. But it looks like the rouleur for Team Diagonal Move, Jay, is holding on by the skin of his teeth, because we've not yet caught him completely, I don't think. It's so close to the finish line. Everyone else coming in behind. And the pink rouleur has absolutely buried himself in an attempt to stay away and win the stage. Sadly, the sprinter of a Diagonal Move has not yet finished, has been spat out the back of the race. And it looks like then that the winner was Jay from Team Diagonal Move, closely followed by the Headhunter and the Ferret for the green team. Stage 17 takes our riders back into the mountains as the road winds from Saint-Gaudens to Périgueux, 129 kilometres, 3 first category climbs, including a mountaintop finish at Périgueux, a ski resort. We're into the French Pyrenees now. The mountains only get tougher for the next few days, and this is a good chance to see who has got some energy left after a hard 3 weeks worth of racing. An attack from the green team on the penultimate categorised climb of the day has seen a breakaway forming on the descent. The blue rouleur is chasing hard, but it seems like again Team Diagonal Move and the blue sprinter are left trailing. We have first the attack from the green team. Stopping at 5. And then the rouleur is chasing, again stopping at 5. The pink sprinter not able to cross the top of that mountain yet. Okay, slipstreaming accounted for means that the sprinter for Diagonal Move is left in an isolated position, racking up more exhaustion. Meanwhile, everyone else is now chasing the green team towards the top of the final climb up to Périgueux. The green team are powering their way up the side of this mountain, showing everyone why they are the greatest 2 riders in Tour history. The Ferret is in the lead, and it really is now a case of, will anyone catch these riders as they approach the finish line, and will the Headhunter allow the Ferret to take victory at the top of the mountain? Let's reveal the cards. A 6 for the pinks rouleur, a 2 for the sprinter struggling after yesterday's exertions, a 4 and a 9 for the blue team, and finally a 3 for the team of the Ferret and the Headhunter. Okay, so 3 does see a win for the Ferret, and the Headhunter coming in behind. The blue rouleur does not cross the line at the same time as the green team, meaning there's going to be even further time put into the peloton by this remarkable green team. Neither does the pink rouleur nor the blue sprinter, and the sprinter for the pink team is miles behind and is going to lose masses of time by the end of today's race. Third place on the road today into Périgueux is the pink rouleur J, who is also third in the overall race, followed by the two riders for the blue team. The rider for Diagonal Move, the sprinter there, their final card is a 2, meaning they will lose an absolute stack of time. And we'll take a look now at the implications on this for the general classification. As expected, the pink rouleur T, one-time yellow jersey, has fallen ever further behind and is now a long way off any chance of gaining a podium position in the Shields Tour. It looks also like the rouleur for the blue team P, another former yellow jersey wearer, is also out of podium contention, meaning third place is almost certainly going to go to the pink rouleur J, who has done remarkably well despite all the exhaustion racking up throughout the course of the race. This does now seem to be a contest between the two riders on the green team. Will they work together? Will they not? Let's find out as we move into the high mountains tomorrow and the road up to Hautacam. Stage 18. It's a big one. 143 kilometres through the Pyrenees, moving from Lourdes to Hautacam, taking in not one but two beyond categorisation HC climbs plus a first categorised climb. First up we have the Col d'Orbisque, 16 kilometres at 7%, then the first category Col d'Espinal, 10 kilometres at 8%, and then Hautacam itself, 13 kilometres at 7.8%. It's going to be another tough, long day in the mountains for our riders, and this one could really change things up at the top of the GC. Team Diagonal Move have cracked. They're barely over the top of the Col d'Orbisque, and yet the rest of the peloton, including both riders for the green team and P from the blue team, are now on the lower slopes of the Col d'Espinal. This is not good for the riders on Diagonal Move. They're accompanied by D from the blue team, but that rider's been last in every single stage and is now making it a point of pride to come in at the end of every single day's racing just before the broom wagon comes and carries him home. Let's play these cards out and see what happens. Just 3 for both those riders here, and a 5 for the blue rouleur. Meanwhile, the Diagonal Move do take advantage of the descent, as does the rider for the blue team. So there's still a big gap, several kilometres at least, between the leaders on the road and Team Diagonal Move. Both riders on Team Diagonal Move are digging as deep as they've ever done before, really making use of the tie-in merchandise for Jay, the rouleur extraordinaire. However, I don't know that that's going to be enough, because it does look like the green team are crossing the summit of the Col d'Espinal and are now going to be onto the descent. And the green team are really putting the hammer down now. They're not slowing as they go down the descent, going through each hairpin as close to the road as they possibly can. Team Diagonal Move are doing their best to keep up the counter-attack, but they may not do so well, limited as they are by the slopes of the Col d'Espinal. Meanwhile, D from the blue team makes a point of pride once again in playing the right card at the wrong time. The gap between the leaders on the road and the rear of the race is now huge. There's absolutely acres of space between them, and you just wonder whether the peloton and Team Diagonal Move have left it too late to catch the green team on this breakaway up to Hautacam. The green team are slowing down though, so maybe this is the opportunity that the rest of the riders have been waiting for. The gaps between the riders are closing, and the green team have slowed significantly since they got to the slopes of the Hautacam. P from the blue team is coming in close behind, followed by Diagonal Move. Okay, let's reveal those cards. A 4 for the Rouleur and for the Sprinter of Diagonal Move. The green team both have a 5, though it looks like those gaps are going to go out again just a little bit. What is the blue team doing? Well, it looks like the Sprinter has finally realised there's a bike race on today and is going to make some effort to catch up, and the blue Rouleur P is going to steady along at the same pace he was before. Let's see where we finish. Not quite at the top for the green team. And not quite at the bottom for the blue team. And the green team are now over the line with the ferret of the Rouleur taking first position. Followed, of course, by the headhunter in second. Surely that's enough now to give them a significant advantage, not only in individual classification, but also in GC. We'll check on that at the end. 5 spaces for the blue Rouleur, which does take him over the line just behind the green team. However, the pink Rouleur and the Sprinter for Diagonal Move are still some distance behind. Caught, it seems, by the blue team. And as the rest of the riders limp across the line, it's now surely the end of the tour, really, for most of the rest of the peloton. The green team have just trashed everybody today, and J.R. Rouleur finishes, but only just utterly exhausted, trying to keep pace with the green team towards the end of the race. Our Sprinter T also just crosses the line. Meanwhile, the Flamme Rouge once again goes as slow as he could possibly get away with. Well, we were expecting some fireworks on the Haute-Camp, the last big mountain stage of this year's race, and we were not disappointed. The green team of the Ferret and the Headhunter really did show the world why they are the greatest tour riders of all time, and absolutely trashed the entirety of the peloton, with both the blue Rouleur P and the pink Sprinter T moving off into the don't bother checking these riders anymore because they're so far behind, no one cares space. And the third on the road, J. R. Rouleur for the pink team for Diagonal Move, has lost another mountain worth of time against the leaders on the road. The next few stages are transitional, moving into the Champs-Élysées. We'll stick with them just to see whether or not there's going to be any change between 1 and 2 on the road. Stage 19, the morning after the night before. Yesterday's stage saw the green team stamp their authority all over this race with cleated feet, and all the other riders dropped like stones down the general classification. This stage today from Castelnau-Manganog to Cahors, 188 kilometres, relatively flat compared to previous stages. Likely to be a more transitional, relatively sedate affair compared to yesterday. Likely to be a one for the sprinters, but we'll see. You never know what will happen in this race. Stage 19 is turning into a sprint finish entirely as predicted. The interesting thing to note though is that the Ferret here for the green team, the Rouleur, has really struggled today and failed to really make a mark on the race, and is now falling off the back some way behind the sprint train. The sprint train is being led out by Team Diagonal Move, who have one eye on the finish and one eye on making some kind of amends for their appalling performance in this year's tour. We'll see in a moment as to whether they can actually achieve that goal and perhaps make some mark on the overall team classification. Let's see. Okay, so the Rouleur J has a 3. That's not going to get him to the finish line, and neither is that for the Sprinter T. To the blue team, we have the Rouleur J, briefly leader of the race at one point, but now looking like he's heading for the front of the sprint train. The Sprinter for the blue team is struggling again and appears to be making no real change to that habit. Meanwhile, the green team of the Ferret and the Headhunter are putting in a strong finish. Okay, let's go. We have a 2 for the Sprinter for diagonal move, a 3 for the Rouleur, a 4 for P, 6 for the Sprinter for the green team, which now puts him at the front of the race. The sprint train are thundering down the final kilometres now. Let's see what we've got. We've got a 2 for the pink Rouleur. That's not going to get him close to the finish line. And neither is the Sprinter. Wow, everyone's fading fast, it seems. The Rouleur here, the blue Rouleur, it looks like he's putting in a strong finish and may well get this on the line. The Sprinter benefits from the descent, but generally not putting in a great performance there. And the green team look like they are limping across the line as well. Okay, let's play that out. Just 2 for the green Sprinter, 5 for the blue Rouleur, who has clearly won the stage. And Team Diagonal Move do not make it across the finish line. In an epic display of final kilometre fade, Diagonal Move do limp across the line in this last turn here. Meanwhile, the remaining teams do appear to be making up the numbers today. There's going to be some time losses for the Ferret as expected, otherwise GC is likely to remain exactly the same. Points classification also probably unchanged today. The penultimate stage, just one more after this one, and we have another individual time trial, exactly the same as it was for the time trial right at the very beginning 2 videos ago when we had a stage 1 grand depart in Copenhagen. The decks have been modified slightly as they were before, and the principle for exhaustion applies as it did then, which is the highest card drawn or played takes the exhaustion. This year's time trial has come to an end. P, the Rouleur from Diagonal Move, the brief yellow jersey holder who had a terrible couple of days in the mountains and plummeted down the rankings, has won another stage, meaning you do have to wonder, if he hadn't had those terrible days, would the result have been different? The Headhunter was second by a mere tyre's width, with everyone else following in close behind. We'll just finish up with the Rouleur for Diagonal Move. Finishing fractionally ahead of the Ferret, and the other 2 riders, as before, are making up the numbers. Stage 21, the final stage on this year's Flamme Rouge Tour de France here on Diagonal Move. It's been a lot of fun making these videos and playing these games through the last few weeks, and a big thank you goes out again to Beiran Owlpants, the BGG user who has designed all these stages and put the Tour de France together for us Flamme Rouge fans to play through. In the real Tour de France, the final stage is usually something of a victory lap for the overall GC winner, followed by a few circuits of the inner Paris area. Here on the board, can't quite fit it on the screen at the moment, but it was a circuit from La Défense all the way through to the Champs-Élysées. 2 laps in this particular game. You will get all your cards back when you finish the first lap, with the exception of any exhaustion that you've played. In terms of the GC, there's going to be no real change at the end of this stage. However, there are possibly a few points to be had on the team qualification. So let's start and see through this final stage of the Tour de France. Coming on to the Champs-Élysées for the final time, it's really a race now for the Tour points for the team classification. If Diagonal Move can get first and second, claiming 5 Tour points, and the green team do not place third, there's a possibility that Team Diagonal Move will claim the Tour team championship. However, that's potentially a tall order, because Diagonal Move have basically been on the front the entire race, racking up a ton of exhaustion cards in this final lap. Really, the green team have just been content to let everyone else do all the work all day. But let's see what happens as we play through these final cards. The Sprinter is going to move 3 and the Rouleur 5, which brings them just almost so close to the finish line, but then the other teams come behind. And they're all very, very close now to the finish line. Team Diagonal Move will cross the finish line with the Rouleur J taking first, claiming back some dignity after the terrible tour that frankly Team Diagonal Move have had, finishing a distant third with the Sprinter completely not considered for timing anymore for at least the last few stages. Let's see what we have for the remaining teams. A 6 for the green team, that's going to push them almost to the finish. A 3 for the Sprinter and a 3 for the Rouleur. That's going to be very close. And it seems like we've got one more card to play. One final card to play in this year's tour, and this will decide who finishes first in the team classification. With luck, it will be Team Diagonal Move who will be rewarded for their consistent second and third positions throughout many, many stages. Without the luck, it will be the green team who will have completely dominated everything in this year's tour if they do finish third on today's stage. So let's reveal the cards and see what we have. We have a 5 for the Rouleur. That is good from a Diagonal Move point of view. That will push the Rouleur over to here. A 4 for the Sprinter, also finishing, but will be behind the Rouleur. And we have a 7 for the green team. That means the green team will have won the classification for the Tour Championship and the individual GC, and will have finished second on the podium as well. The end of this year's Flamme Rouge Tour de France here on Diagonal Move is a victory for the Headhunter, who not only wins the tour by about 3.5 minutes from his teammate the Ferret, but also proves that he is quite possibly the greatest tour rider of all time. Third is Jay from Team Diagonal Move, who used his range of tie-in shovels to dig so deep he almost found the Earth's core at times. The team classification is a victory also for the green team, who win by a solitary point from Team Diagonal Move in terms of the sheer consistency of their riding over the last 21 stages. Okay, that is the end. The curtain now has to come down on this year's Tour de France here at Diagonal Move. It's been an epic series of games, quite possibly the longest campaign style game I've played, certainly the longest here on the channel. Quite a marathon to undertake, but I am glad I've done it. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have, and who knows, maybe next year we'll be back for 2023. In the meantime, please do click like, subscribe, all those little things that support the channel, and you could always do a lot worse than check out your own version of the Flamme Rouge Tour de France.